Here is two back-to-back breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Israel says it has killed a top Hamas commander in Gaza after an explosive device wounded Israeli soldiers, intensifying ongoing tensions in that territory. On the other side of the world, Belarus released 123 prisoners, including a Nobel Peace winner and opposition figure, following an agreement with the United States signing a rare diplomatic breakthrough. Welcome to SATV's International Affairs, broadcasting live from SATV's Dhaka studio. I'll have a very distinguished panelist today, Sir John Charles Dalton, an internationally recognized consultant working experience over 40 countries, and we'll have Norman Flat-Barnes, SATV's geopolitical correspondent based in Washington DC, and of course at the studio we have Shamsul Alam Pantho, SATV's international affairs commentator. Ladies and gentlemen, let's begin from Shamsul Alam Pantho, our international affairs commentator, because he has gathered the latest world's breaking news stories. Let us see what he can put on today's show, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanchan, and of course a very warm welcome to John Dalton in the studio, and of course Norman Floyd-Barnes, who joins us through Zoom in Washington DC. First, I have a sad news for Bangladeshi people, and Bangladeshi viewers must know this. 6 Bangladeshi peacekeepers were killed and 8 were injured in a terrorist attack on a UN base in Sudan, according to the Bangladeshi army. On a social media platform on Facebook, the army said that the incident took place in Abyei and the fighting is ongoing. My respects and condolences to those who were lost in peacekeeping efforts. And of course, we see that the Bulgaria's Generation Z protesters have made sure of the Prime Minister's resignation. It was regarding corruption and a controversial budget that had made sure and galvanized all the people in their community. And across from this, Dubai is setting a new world record for the real estate market, with the most expensive penthouse sale in the Middle East at 550 million dirhams, which is approximately 150 million US dollars at the Bugatti residences. I would want to pass it back to Rashid.
All right, sir. I would like to request to the production control room. I found some audio disturbance on our international affairs commentator Shamsul Alam Pantho. Would you please fix it right now? Let me go to Washington DC. Where is Norman Flat-Barnes? Norman, I know cold is still huge in Washington DC, that the political temperature is extremely high over there regarding the domestic issues as well as the international moves by Donald J. Trump and his allies.
Greetings from Washington, D.C. on a cold and snowy morning. Today we have several issues going on. Right now there's a manhunt in Providence, Rhode Island at Brown University, where there was again, sadly, another mass killing that took place yesterday. 2 students and 9 other students, 2 students was killed, and 9 other students are in critical conditions after a lone gunman entered one of the academic buildings during the exam and took aim at them. He was able to escape. There's a nationwide manhunt out for him right now. It's been almost 20 hours and no one has been able to locate this gentleman. We know he's a male. He's dressed in black. But we do not know his whereabouts. So there's a nationwide manhunt out for this guy. In the meantime, Providence, Rhode Island, as you know, is a very affluent city, and Brown is located downtown. The city is on lockdown right now because of the abundance of caution, and everybody is very tense right now because not knowing when they can come out the house or what information is available. On the other side of the news, the United States President Trump has announced that he's prepared to do retaliation regarding the killing of military personnel and civilian personnel in Syria. It was a ISIS attack stated from the Department of War. They're stating that, and they are preparing options right now for a response to this attack.
All right, sir. There are so many events we can discuss, but let me begin from Russia-Ukraine war, major new attacks and ongoing peace talks. News says Russia launched major drone and missile strikes on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, causing widespread blackouts in Odessa and beyond. Ukraine responded with attacks inside Russia. Diplomatic efforts are underway in Berlin with United States, European Union and Ukrainian officials aiming for a possible ceasefire. They are looking for ceasefire, but they are continuing attack on each other. Don't you think until a limited pause, ceasefire will get respond? Along with, I have a question, sir. What are the realistic prospects for a ceasefire at the upcoming Berlin peace talks, you assume? Sir Dalton.
Well, I think any peace talks or any ceasefire has to be initiated by Mr. Putin himself. Russia has to decide. They have all the cards. They can control what's going to happen. So unless they're prepared for ceasefire, unless they're prepared to back off a little bit and acknowledge that they have lost this engagement with Ukraine, I don't see any possibility of a ceasefire or a rapprochement or any kind of a peace deal to be made. And I think it's also, I got a couple of seconds. Can I give you a little comparison here? I was thinking about this because it's Martyrs' Day in Bangladesh. It's a wonderful recognition of the history of what happened, about where people who are in conflict with each other refuse to accept the other person's point of view. The Biharis and the Bangladeshis refused to accept it until there was this recognition that the Bihari and the Indian and the Pakistanis could not succeed, and they simply withdrew from the battlefield and they lost. And so we celebrate that day, but only because so many martyrs were killed. Now let's look at the eastern part of Ukraine, where everybody there is an ethnic Russian. All the old people get pensions from Russia. Land is registered in the name of Russia. And so it may well be that that Ukraine, not any individual person, but Ukraine has to recognize some way that this area is not really Ukrainian ethnically. And the same way that Bangladeshis and the Biharis had to recognize that there was a separation and therefore there had to be some settlement. That when they knew that they couldn't win, there was a settlement. And I'm thinking when Russia must know that they cannot win this, in fact, I'm hoping that they will have some sort of a settlement. It's in Putin's hands, but I'm optimistic that not a ceasefire, but actually some recognition that this conflict has to end. And peace is more important than a ceasefire.
Very well conclusion. I really appreciate very well conclusion, sir. I want to go to Shamsul Panthu, SATV's international affairs commentator, whose continuous effort to learn and to speak on international issues. Sir, my question is very simple, but you have to think about the dignity of this question, dignity of this negotiation, dignity or integrity of this integration. My question is, should Ukraine consider territorial concessions to end the war sooner, and what risk does that pose?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanchan. I believe that the sound issue is still unresolved, but as per your question, I will try to answer to my best capabilities. First of all, you said whether or not Ukraine should concede some part of its territory in order to understand the betterment of the Ukrainians as a nation. What are the opportunity costs in this regard? Well, because of this ongoing fighting, we see almost 1 million households without power in Ukraine. This is, of course, after Russia has attacked the energy grid across various regions. We know that the Berlin peace talks are on the way, and at this moment, everyone on the world, including US President Donald Trump, is of the belief that if they were to concede some of the land, maybe majority of the nation would have survived. If not, economic barriers would have gone down. The situation, as we know, the warlike situation would obviously diminish. So once again, almost a million households are without electricity. After a barrage of overnight Russian strikes, there must be some kind of peace agreement that is solid. It's not just blank words and empty. It has to be a solid agreement between the two sides, and they must agree. And of course, one of the reasons why Russia has shown this kind of aggression is their alliance towards NATO. So Ukraine should, of course, keep its reservations with NATO, remembering that Russia can, of course, at any moment take over their entire nation. So one must remember it.
Let's check the Washington's perspective. Norman is there. I know Norman is a very studious personality. He always read the different opinion, watch the different media. I really appreciate your wisdom and knowledge on this particular. Norman, sir, I just want to know from you how effective is the current strategy of the targeting power infrastructure, roads, or public infrastructure on both sides, because Ukraine is doing the same behavior as retaliation, where Russia is doing targeted attacks on infrastructure issues. This is my question to you. So how the negotiator will handle this?
Thank you for the question. The answer is very complex because on one hand, we have the aggressor, which is Russia. They feel like they have the upper hand, they have the advantage, and all they have to do is basically wait this out. The winter is here. The weather will take its toll on the soldiers in the field, and they believe that the Ukrainian soldiers will basically quit, and that's basically decide to quit. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you right now. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. So one viewpoint is that the Russians believe that they will continue on with their assault and let Mother Nature's kick in, and basically the Ukrainians will quit. On the other side, the Ukrainian is making some strategic attacks inside of Russia, and it's costing Russia a lot of money, a lot of time, and personnel. And Ukrainian believe that Russia will, the people will basically quit. So right now we had an impasse. We have a situation where right now both of them are looking at each other, down each other's gun barrel, and they're waiting for one of them to blink. They're waiting for someone to blink. However, the situation is not good for either one, but more so the issue with Ukraine. If Ukraine gives up and concedes that they have they're not able to win this war, and they want the conflict to end, that can happen today. That can happen. They can stop it. However, tomorrow there will be a new situation pops up, and the total annihilation of the Ukrainian country is possible, and more importantly, the movement will continue across Ukraine to other parts of Europe. So Ukraine has a very hard decision they have to make. Do we stop? Do we impose our last stand, or do we just concede to it and allow Russia to basically come in, and we'll basically be a province of Russia, citizens of Russia, and we have no future. We have no future as a country.
All right, sir. You have given a summary line. Last 3 days, I talked with a couple of Ukrainian journalists now based in Belarus or in Warsaw, or somebody is in other countries. I talked with them. What is the impression of the Ukrainian people? Norman is absolutely correct. Ukrainian people want the war end.
Sure.
And they want to come back to home. Sir, I just want to know from you, I just want to learn from you, what role should United States and European Union countries play in structuring and any future peace agreement? Because Donald Trump already indicated that he may withdraw his support along with NATO from Ukraine. It is a paradigm shift from the focus.
Well, I mean, Trump is like a yo-yo, you know. I mean, today he has one position, tomorrow he has a different position. You know, the U.S., I think most of the U.S. people still continue to support Ukraine, wants to have Ukraine to have a, you know, free life within the European environment. I mean, Russia has been the aggressor. Russia consummated this war. They're the ones that attacked Ukraine. They did it in the name of the two eastern provinces in Ukraine. And so I think the U.S. in this situation must be steadfast in support of their allies in NATO and the European Union. They must stand up to Russia. He's waffling, but you know, he's what's called, you know, taco. Trump always chickens out. And so in this situation, I think it's incumbent on Putin to put as much pressure as you possibly can on Putin. Cut off the oil supplies, cut off everything as possible in terms of any money available. Take the Belgian money and use it for reconstruction or give it to the Ukrainians. But Putin holds the decision. You can talk to Ukrainians, you can talk to Zelensky, you can talk to anybody. Unless Russia admits that this battle is over and they cannot dictate the terms to Ukraine to make them sacrifice their sovereignty, Russia has to agree to back off. And the pressure should be on Russia, not coddling Russia, sending his son-in-law or other people to talk to Putin. Putin has to admit and agree that he is not going to be expansionist. Norman is correct. As soon as this guy makes a deal, Putin makes a deal in which he gains something, he cannot be stopped. You said the same thing. He will progress through Europe constantly. Yes. Moldova would be next. Okay? I am optimistic, however, because Belarus's action over the weekend, freeing 123 prisoners, means to me that they see the writing on the wall, that Russia will not succeed long term in this battle, because Belarus and Russia have been buddies for a long time.
Correct.
I'm hoping that the Belarus action is an indicator that maybe the Russian population and the Russian allies are looking at the situation and saying, this has to stop because we're losing money. I mean, there's no great moral principle involved. Russian economy is collapsing. And if Russia can somehow save face, back off and stay off in a permanent peace agreement, that's possible. But a temporary ceasefire, just an invitation for next week's battle.
All right, sir, I want to take your perspective in 4 particular dimensions. Do you believe Vladimir Putin is unstoppable? He is a diplomacy master. He's a good commander, he's a popular leader in his country, and he's showing to the world that all our kids, he's the master.
Thank you so much for the question. Of course, from all, I would say from the 4 categories you've said, he is all of the above. At this moment, he has played some kind of a push and pull strategy with the US leader, US President Donald Trump, and we understand that even after sanctioning Russia, it is quite so unstoppable. We have its trading partners, China, South Korea, North Korea, as well as India, to keep its economy stable during these last 3.5 years of war with Ukraine. And of course, it has not sought out any kind of help from its allies, allied nations, but Russia itself is such a vast nation, and I'll give you some of the news. It has some kind of traction with not only Ukraine but with Europe. The German Chancellor Friedrich Merz accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of wanting to restore the old Soviet Union, which was actually split up in 1991. So such a dream can be seen by an ex-KGB agent who had served the Russian military intelligence and is now the leader of Russia. So having such a dream is not far out for the Russian people to have belief in him. Of course, he is unstoppable. I don't see another successor to Vladimir Putin, but in order to make him stop from his expansionism, we must get some kind of guarantee from the NATO alliance so that the NATO does not expand on Russia's borders.
I'm really scared when Sir Dalton is talking about that next target of Vladimir Putin might be Moldova. And you have indicated a couple of weeks ago that Finland has a long border
Correct.
with Russia. Finland is at danger. Poland is at danger. Denmark is in danger. Let me be very frank with Sir Norman Floyd Barnes. Norman, allow me and excuse me for my audacity to ask a very tough question which you have to answer very directly. Do you really acknowledge that Trump fails on dealing Vladimir Putin? Let us be very honest.
Your question is regarding Trump's plans in dealing with Vladimir Putin. I honestly don't know. He hoped to win President Putin's favor to negotiate some type of treaty where they can coexist, Russia can coexist with the United States, at the same time implementing his security plan about including Russia as part of a alliance in dealing with the world and dealing with the economic situation going on. I don't think Putin feels the same way. I think he will utilize the relationship, the newfound relationship with the United States, but his vision is very clear, very focused. He wants total domination of Europe. He's not going to stop. He may delay, there may be ceasefire, there may be pauses, but his mission is to have an endless war across Europe to the point where they become one union again, the Soviet Union or whatever union they may call it, but his total purpose the rest of his life is basically to ensure that the Soviet Union is a sovereign country that includes Europe.
Wow.
All right, sir.
Wow.
I'm sure Sir Dalton has something to add.
Well, I think we're all looking at the fearful situation. Is he a psychopath? Is Putin so crazy and so out of touch, okay, that he wants to be sort of like a 18th century commander of the Russian Empire trying to move towards the West?
Like the czars?
Like the czars. I mean, he's
Like the
caught
czars,
up in this
Alexander?
identity problem
Yeah.
that he is so powerful. Huh? But I mean, if you were in Ukraine's position and you looked at all the peace agreements that Donald Trump has signed, Thailand, Cambodia, the strongest party attacks the weaker party. Congo and Rwanda, the stronger party attacks the weaker party. Israel and Gaza, the stronger party attacks the weaker party. As minute as you sign off on a so-called ceasefire, a Trump ceasefire, you're going to get your butt kicked. And it's ridiculous for anybody to put any trust in Donald Trump's negotiating ability on the international stage. Everything he signs turns out to be a bad deal.
All right, sir. I appreciate the questions and participations from our very valued audience from inside the country and around the globe. I want to receive a question from our regular viewer, Jannatul Firdaus. By profession, she's a corporate personality. The question from Jannatul Firdaus is, I want to put it to Shamsulam Pantho. I think he can face really well this. What's next? She added, looking ahead 6 months, what global flashpoint worries you are the most and why?
Well, of course, I would like to thank the comment coming from social media. What's next is a very vast question for me to answer, but one can definitely say 2026 will be the repercussion of the events that have happened over 2025. We have seen a huge walkout of nations at the UNGA when Benjamin Netanyahu took to the podium. That was one of the highlights, the biggest highlights of this year, as in my opinion, I've seen that face to face. And of course, Donald Trump is met with midterm elections happening in 2026, and how the US people will understand whether or not we should still keep him in the seat of the president, given that he has ignored the Congress, he has ignored the Supreme Courts, and he has given executive orders. Some of these orders are, of course, in violation of international law. I believe the more than 100 people that were killed on these boats off of the Caribbean, and not arresting them, not putting them to trial is, of course, a crime in my viewpoints. And if you want to understand what's next, definitely I'm seeing more wars and more ceasefires breaking out. As I would like to appreciate Mr. Dalton here, that anything that Donald Trump puts into effect of a ceasefire, it eventually falters. We've seen that in various circumstances, including Cambodia and Thailand. We are only awaiting any kind of retaliation between India and Pakistan, another one of those war fronts that Donald Trump claims to have stopped.
All right, sir. Another question come indicating Norman Flood Barnes from Shoma Ghosh Monica. By profession, she is a lawyer and she is always participating in our show. I appreciate Shoma Ghosh Monica. Question is, how might the tanker seizure impact global well supply and prices, and which countries or regions? This question is for our Honorable Sir Norman. I'm sure this is a very relevant question regarding the Venezuela and United States tensions going on right this moment. Norman.
The tensions are huge. They're great. We're getting ready to embark on a new year, 2026, and through all appearances, with the current leadership that we have in the various countries, we're going to see a repeat of 2025. Nothing's going to change until there's a change in the top leadership. Yes, United States, we have a midterm election coming up. There will be changes in the House. What that would do, there we're going to have what we call our own internal civil war. The Democrats will rise up, as they say, and they will confront and fight tooth and nail the Trump administration. Unfortunately, this fight will go on until his term is up. So we will be seeing a period of difficulty. Bills are not going to be passed, a lot of controversy, a lot of spite from the Trump administration. So it'll be punitive issues going on back and forth, and there'll be a lot of controversy inside the United States. So what that means for the rest of the world? What that means is basically the focus of the United States will be on how do we maintain control and at the same time make deals with the rest of the world. Ceasefires, conflicts, and other situations. There will be more of what we see now, and there will be no resolution. So we're looking at what we used to call a ball of confusion. There will be continued issues going on, and the tensions will remain high, very high. I don't think anything is going to happen dramatically. We just continue with the same old consistent tension behavior and nothing really done. A lot of bluff, a lot of bravado, a lot of many crises popping up, but I don't think anyone has the courage to even do anything significant.
All right, sir. Tensions is high between Russia and Ukraine. Tensions is going high between United States and Venezuela. And after the break, we'll again discuss tensions is high in the Middle East region, because I have the news: Israel-Gaza conflict, targeted strike on Hamas commander. Israel conducted an unpredicted airstrike in Gaza, killing a top Hamas military commander, raising tensions around an already fragile ceasefire. I always appreciate Shamsulam Panthu. From day one, he says it's a fragile ceasefire.
We're in break now, brother.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিংয়ের জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিংয়ের জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated fine dining restaurant.
Dear viewers, Norman says tensions are intensifying. He has given two examples, US and Venezuela and Russia, Ukraine. I have given one more news, Israel and Gaza. Though ceasefire is in active situation. Sir, let us be very clear. How might the killing of a senior Hamas figure affect the fragile ceasefire at Gaza?
You know, they kill them all the time. I mean, this is Israel for many, many years has been attacking individual Hamas leaders, individual leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood inside Gaza. It's a more, for me, it's a preferable way of Israel to react than for indiscriminate bombing of the resident population. They have some consistent opposition to Hamas, and they find a way with an individual rocket. They get information and they attack that person, and that person unfortunately does not make it out of the car. So I don't think it's going to change anything at all. It's more likely, however, to on the air attacks that are going on in Khan Yunis and in the south, where 37 people were killed yesterday, including women and children. This is an indefensible breach of the ceasefire agreement. This may engage some of the international community to continue to put more and more pressure on Israel to back off a bit. Now, whether there's sort of a holiday ceasefire is coming up, who will be able to say? But I think that the individual killing of a Hamas leader is a common affair in that part of the world.
All right, sir. I will have a question from Chamili Monir, a news personality from the state-run television, Bangladesh television. I'll definitely ask this question to my respected panelist, but as Norman has time limitations, I framed a special question for him last night. Sir, how is the Trump administration's foreign policy shifting relationships with the key United States partners around the globe?
The shift, the apparent shift, is actually not a shift. It's a planned operation. The goal is basically to make agreements, commercial and business relationships with countries, including Russia, including China, and whatever it takes to do that. The administration is prepared to take action regarding that.
All right, sir.
That's a great
I'm
answer.
sure Dalton sir will add something.
It's a great answer. He's exactly correct. We've talked about this before. Donald Trump is a transactional leader. He wants to make everything about financial transactions. He's not standing on values. He's not standing on American principles. He's not standing on the American Constitution. All of the Abraham Accords that were negotiated in his first term were all about money. Everything having to do here, like Belarus backed off because he removed the sanctions. The sanctions in Russia are the only thing that's keeping Vladimir Putin at bay. He is always interested in the financial dimension. If you look at the ceasefire in Gaza, he's talking about building hotels on the shore. You know, he is a money man. He is a transactional guy. So I appreciate very much what Norman had to say, that this is all about commercial activity. This is a transactional guy. He's a real estate guy.
So you don't have any problem to acknowledge war is a lucrative business.
Well, that's always been the case, and I think everybody agrees with that. And as Confucius says, either evolve or dissolve. Wink, wink.
I'll come back to Israel-Gaza issue later. Let me receive one question from Chamili Monir. She's a news personality. Sir, I want to draw your attention, Shamsulam Pantho. She asked a very important question. I myself feel it. How might reduced oversight of human rights violations in conflict-affected countries, especially she mentioned Sudan, Myanmar, Ukraine, affect global human rights accountability? I think it's a very broad question from Chamili Munir.
Thanks for the question on Facebook from Ms. Chamili Munir. I want to answer it by saying the minute there is violence that erupts in any kind of territory, one must forget that they have any kind of rights. Let me tell you, we've seen over 600 people who were slaughtered in South Sudan just a couple of weeks ago. And what happened, we heard that the rapid military support forces were armed by some Middle Eastern nations. The arms were supplied from Middle Eastern nations, and the Sudanese army and the rapid support paramilitary support forces went head to head. And because of this, displacement happened. More than thousands of people had left that said city that was ambushed by the RSF. So that is just one example of human rights violations. If you talk about humanity, there is definitely lacking of UN conventions coming into play. Today we have a news that says almost 6 Bangladeshi peacekeepers have been murdered in a terrorist attack. So the forces of evil, if you would call it, terrorist attacks, and the forces of peace, unity, dignity, humanity, these are always fighting one another. And not only just the example I gave regarding Sudan, it's also in various other places across the world, in Syria, in Israel and Gaza, of course in Ukraine and Russia. All of these war fronts are places where if you are born or if you are a human that reside in such a place, you can be assured that your human rights and dignity have already left the room.
One question I should ask Sir John Charles Dalton, because he himself is very experienced in different continents. He worked in Palestine also, I mean Gaza, Israel also. Sir, I want to know from what leverage does the United States brokered peace plan still have on both parties? No one is respecting this peace plan, and how can international actors like United Nations, United Arab Emirates, because it is also a big player becoming Qatar, contribute to sustainable de-escalation?
Well, I think there are some people who are legitimately interested in peace in that area. The negotiators, Egypt and Qatar, and many of the European countries as well, are interested in some stabilization, some peace, because it affects everybody. But the ceasefire is a mirage. I mean, there's no ceasefire involved at all. I mean, if you think that ceasefire is like giving like a breathing space to people in Gaza just for a few days while you continue to bomb and attack them, that's not anywhere close to peace. And the point that was just made about the fact that once you're under attack like that, human rights leaves the room. Great expression. This is like exponentially happening in Gaza. So I don't think that there's any prospect for people recognizing the ceasefire, and that the situation is not going to change until these countries that are involved in like the peace negotiation, let's say Qatar, for example, okay? I mean, there are families in Qatar, oil-rich families in Qatar that are providing money directly to Hamas. There are oil-rich families in UAE that are providing money directly to the forces in Sudan. It's not a government issue, it's not a government response, but the rich people who are trying to prolong the war for whatever reason, or support their idea of Hamas being a force for good. This is outside the framework of normal negotiations. These are not companies, these are countries, these are individual, very rich people that are fueling the fight by giving billions, multiple millions of dollars to Hamas and other terrorist activities, because they want to foment some sort of a conflicts, obviously in their own interest.
Sir, I really appreciate you for your very in-depth analysis and findings you have got behind these all clashes. Norman has added, when he's in offline, he said, what affects human rights in these affected areas? I want to go to Shamsul Bantu because he always put his concentration on the international events. Sir, recently, Syrian president after Bashar al-Assad has faced an interview with CNN's Christian Amanpour.
Yes.
He said one thing which I felt very significant. He says the world leaders should understand that regional players should be engaged in peacekeeping, not the outsiders. Later, this line has been criticized and analyzed in different top media outlets. Do you agree on Syria's president's comment that he wants all regional players should create the political path toward broader Israeli-Palestinian peace?
Well, I would like to welcome the statements of the current leader, but if you look back a couple of years ago, Bashar al-Assad was more or less known to be someone allied with the Russians. So this is where that fighting amongst Syria, the US-Russia fighting had happened. And of course, he had been overthrown, and Ahmed al-Shara is now the leader of Syria. But there's the latest news I want to bring out for our viewers. 2 US troops and a civilian were killed, while 3 other service members were injured in an ambush by an ISIS-Daesh gunman in Syria, according to the US Central Command CENTCOM. So once again, Syria does have a liability to understand its sovereignty as a nation, to make sure these such events do not occur, because of such occurrence, the US President Donald Trump must have to make a decision how he's going to handle Syria in the future. But his comment that said that every nation should understand how it's going to protect its own borders and no foreign actors should play in the decision making of local rules and regulations, he is quite so correct in saying so. Of course, he is a revolutionary fighter. He was known as a fighter, and the US security forces had designated him as a terrorist before his arrival at the White House. So once again, his intentions towards his nation, his countrymen, and of course on the world political stage is a matter of questioning, matter of time before we understand what kind of leader Syria has now put in its head of state.
Sir, I have a news that US foreign policy under the Trump administration has been started disliking by European countries, closest allies, closest partner, even in NATO members. I want to draw the attention of Sir John Charles Dalton. Sir, European leaders have expressed concern about the Trump's push for a Ukraine peace deal that some view as unfavorable to Kiev, risking a rift with NATO allies. Very direct indication. My question is, how is the Trump administration's foreign policy shifting, and what would be the consequences if once United States lost all its allies and partners?
Well, they lose credibility. I mean, everybody recognizes that presidencies come and go, and so that it's never the United States which is perceived as the enemy or the non-participant or non-cooperating partner. People understand that we're going through some difficult transitions in the United States. European partners are sort of uncomfortable with that. They would expect a NATO partner to be 100% committed to protecting Ukraine, that this is existential for European countries to say, well, we can't afford to let Russia gain an advantage. Why are we negotiating from a position of weakness we should be negotiating from a position of strength. But Trump is not a traditional, as we've talked about today, he's not a traditional foreign policy guy. What he has done is put up the stove and have like 10,000 pressure cookers going at the same time. Everything is like going like this all around the world. He claims to be a peacemaker. He's pursuing the Nobel Peace Prize, and he's creating conflict out of his agreements. Thailand, Cambodia, and every other place in the world. So he is igniting these fires. I mean, there are some people that say that, his whole intent is to create enough problems so that he can come in and solve them and make himself a hero. But I think most European leaders recognize that this is a temporary problem, that Mr. Trump is one of a kind, that he does not have a consistent foreign policy, but that he has begun to express sort of a position that seems to abandon the post-World War II order of NATO being a key partner of the United States. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, Canada, the United States, as well as all the European powers, they're sort of getting weak in the knees in face of one guy, Putin in Russia. I don't understand it personally, but I think that it's always looked at through a monetary lens with Donald Trump.
All right, sir, we have got back Norman, but I have to take a very short commercial break. After that, I'll have questions for Norman and also for Shamsulam Pantho, because I still have a few tough questions ahead.
Crystal clear swimming pool for ultimate relaxation. Modern gym and serene spa for well-being. Perfect venue for corporate events, weddings and parties. Seamless and secured. Elegant and eye-catching design. Indulge, relax, discover the first 5-star chain hotels in Bangladesh. Grand Palace Hotel Dhaka, 22 Kakrail, Dhaka, Bangladesh.
Welcome to Grand Club at Mirpur 10 Dhaka. Elegant spa and wellness facility for ladies and gents. Play pool and snooker in international standard billiard zone. World-class gym facility.
Productions, please bring Sir Norman Floyd Barnes on the screen. I have a debate with him. Sir, how do domestic US politics shapes Trump's international strategy, and what impact does US policy have on US credibility, acceptance in future peace negotiations? Because Trump has shifted his words, commitment and his moves.
Thank you for the question, but the simple answer is that there's no connection. The Trump administration has its own viewpoint, missions, and they are not concerned about how the domestic people feel about their ambitions. That's the best way to put it. So we have to understand that this administration is different from anything we have ever had before. It is a transactional administration based on a business model, and the business model doesn't necessarily confirm or support the domestic situation that we have here in the United States. So we have a couple more years to deal with this, and we are learning basically the true intentions of this administration. It has nothing to do with domestic harmony, stability, or dealing with the people who voted them in. It's more about gaining more business deals.
I like your term transactional administration according to American Constitution and American people's desire. Do you think this administration is fit for 2025 United States very progressive movement, transactional administration by Donald Trump, sir?
Well, thank God we only have 15 more days of 2025 to deal with him. 2026, by June, of course, the midterm elections will be on the horizon, and then you'll see a lot of different kind of positions coming out in opposition to what Trump is doing. But I think, Norman has said it quite correctly. I mean, he doesn't care what the American people think about what he does outside the country, and he doesn't care what kind of cruelty or impact his policies might have on average people. You remember that we had this big conversation in September about the shutdown of the U.S. government, and we were going to have a negotiation on health policy as soon as this was finished, and the Russians that's a Freudian slip, the Republicans promised to negotiate a better healthcare situation. Well, that didn't happen, and it's not going to happen. They are dead fat against giving anything to the American people that will make their lives better. Okay? And the people who are most affected by this, sadly, are in the so-called red states, Republican states, but they do not seem to process this information. They give Mr. Trump a complete carte blanche to do what he wants to do. They are suffering, but nobody's taken up any action against him. They cannot. We're outnumbered in Congress, in the Senate, in the House, and the presidency. We have to sort of like play our little bitty cards once in a while, but nothing's going to be done to exert pressure on Donald Trump domestically or on internationally.
All right, sir. This morning, CNN is broadcasting one interesting story. Donald Trump has passed 345 days. Still, United States and all countries will have to face him 1110 days more. His administration, his negotiation, his orders, his executive orders. Sir, I just want to know.
Well, we do have the possible intervention of divine spirit that might get us over the hump. We'll have to see.
But 1110 days is still ahead. We have to live with Donald Trump administration.
No, it's
Sir,
possible.
Let's get an take from Shamsulam Panto. Sir, to what extent should other global powers like European Union, NATO, United Nations, ASEAN countries act independently of US leadership?
Well, of course, if you look at it's not no longer a one world order. It is now a multipolar rule of a new world order that's going on, and if, of course, US can't claim that they are the supreme of all of the other nations. We see the rise of China, the Asian giant, coming out. The South China Sea remains disputed. However, the Chinese in general are now the second in line right after the United States, and one cannot ignore the fact that the battle between these two is not only just economic, but of course as well as military competition between the two. But I have a breaking news I want to give before I pass it back to you, Mr. Kanchan. Australian police respond after gunshots are reportedly at Sydney's Bondi Beach. It's an active situation, and Al Jazeera is immediately doing live reporting on its website. So I felt the need to let our viewers know that there is a breaking situation in Sydney's Bondi Beach.
I really appreciate, as an international affairs commentator, you have concluded the show with the latest, in minutes, breaking news from Australia. This is what is international affairs. I appreciate Sir John Charles Dalton for your wonderful and thought-provoking, very insightful depth analysis on the facts. I appreciate you, sir, and I appreciate Norman. Norman has done extremely well today. I really liked him. Dalton will say goodbye to audience today.
I want to say goodbye to Norman too, and I want to say goodbye to his poinsettia, which is a beautiful plant right behind him. Norman, your house looks great. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all of you, ladies and gentlemen.
It's the season. Yes.
All right, we will see you again tomorrow with new panelists, new topics, new breaking news, and of course, new kind of analysis. Goodbye.